Hey, fellow mathers, welcome to the podcast where math is figure-outable. I'm Pam Harris, a former mimicker turned mather.
And I'm Kim Montague, a reasoner who now knows how to share her thinking with others. At Math is Figure-Outable, we are on a mission to improve math teaching.
We know that algorithms are amazing historic achievements, but they're not good teaching tools because mimicking step-by-step procedures can actually trap students into using less sophisticated reasoning than the problems are intended to develop. And it can trap students into thinking that math is a bunch of procedures to mimic and memorize.
You just made your sentence even longer.
I did.
In this podcast, we help you teach mathing, building relationships with your students, and grappling with mathematical relationships.
We invite you to join us to make math more figure-outable. Bam! All right, Kim, let's dive into today. Hey, how's it going?
It's good. How are you?
I'm a little stuffy today. Hopefully I don't sound too... Yeah, it's fine. I don't know.
Texas.
Allergies in Texas. You never know. You never know what's blooming, what's going, just there you are. Yep.
I'm super jazzed about this series where we have laid out, for the last 2 weeks, we have laid out the first two stages,
places,
parts of a journey, places. Yeah, we should come up with some better words.
Levels of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in stage one, when you join the Math is Figure-Outable movement, you are building your numeracy. You are making sense of mathematics, and you are thinking about ways to make it more reasonable. In stage two, you are thinking about the major models and strategies for each operation. So what's next? When you can build your own numeracy and you know the major models and strategies, where to?
Bam.
And so stage three is all about listening to students and representing student thinking.
Yeah.
So this is so important to us because it's the connection between teacher and student to move math forward for each individual student. So in this stage, you are listening to students thinking, and it's crucial, and it requires time and practice. So just like we said last week about not rushing through stage two, we would highly encourage you not to rush through stage three as well, because this is so important. If you are a leader, you're working with teachers to build their confidence by embedding opportunities to play the role of both the teacher and the student in interactions where sharing of strategies and modeling occurs. If you are a teacher working with your students, then you are diving on every opportunity to ask questions so that you can hear what they're thinking, so that you can represent their thinking as well.
Mm-hmm. And if I could just I'm going to step outside again and just kind of compare.
Yeah.
Stage one is kind of about mathematics and where you really own your own. Stage two is mathematics for teaching. And then in stage three, it's mathematics for teaching with students.
Yep.
Sort of bring in the students now and like eliciting strategies for students and modeling, representing their thinking. That's where we are here.
So if anybody hasn't made the connection, we're layering on, right? As we move through the stages, we're layering on a little bit more accountability, a little bit more depth, a little bit more to consider as you move through the stage. So you're more equipped all along, and we're just giving you a little bit more to consider.
Yeah. So and if you didn't listen to stage one and stage two, we'd highly encourage you to go back and listen to those two. We just zipped right through them. Today, we're really going to dive into this stage where we're eliciting and representing student thinking. And Kim, I feel like I just cut you off for a reason.
No. Well, I was just going to say that, we've been talking about stage one, stage two, and I don't think what we've said yet is that people join us. You mentioned in stage one, in the first episode, that we meet people at all of these different stages every day in groups and in workshops and in all the things that we do. It's not as if we meet everybody and they're like, hi, I'm building my numeracy. People are all over the place. And so we're just kind of framing the progress that we think people make so they can identify where they think they are, and we help them figure out where they are so that they can move on to the next stage.
And in a particular area of mathematics.
Yeah.
So when you say we meet people that are all over the place, they're all over the place in different areas of mathematics. So I might meet a person who, as I'm diving into proportional reasoning, might sort of be at stage one where they're really building their own numeracy. Whereas in multiplication and division, they're totally at stage 5, which we haven't even talked about yet. So people are not only all over the place as in, like you are here and you are here, but a particular person probably is in different stages in different areas of mathematics.
Yeah.
We're suggesting it can be helpful to recognize kind of where you are in a particular area of mathematics so that you can know how to work in that area and progress to the next one. And it
Right.
gives you choice. It gives you sort of agency to say, it's not just this sort of vast era, like crazy mathematics out there. And where do I start? Nah, like we're giving you some action things that you can do to keep progressing to make math more figure outable for you in specific areas of mathematics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
cool.
Okay, so at stage 3, we've identified some major milestones, right?
Yep.
So in this stage, you are asking and understanding how students use relationships to solve problems. So you've built your own numeracy well
Mm-hmm.
enough, or you're working on it still, but you are seeking to understand how students use relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
they might not be as clear to be able to communicate it, right?
Uh-huh.
Just like we aren't in the beginning as well. But you're seeking to understand and helping them figure out how to say what they're saying or how
Mm-hmm.
to say what they're thinking about.
And part of what makes that possible in this stage is that in the stage before,
Yeah.
when you learned the major models and strategies, you have those top of mind now. So
Right.
even as a student sort of haltingly kind of says these like things, and you're like, because you own the relationships, you own those major models and strategies, you're able to go, oh, I see the relationships you're using. And you're able to choose a model that fits that well. And so
Yeah.
that's part of why this builds on that, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Super important to be asking not only your students, but everybody you meet. I mean, as much as you can, like having conversations with like, how do you think about throw out a problem, like 99 plus 47. How do you think about that problem? And then listen, like this is a stage where teachers really can practice the art of listening.
Hmm.
Yeah. To hear. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's definitely different to represent your own thinking
Mm-hmm.
than it is to hear what someone else says, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
student or another adult or teacher, if you're a leader, to
Mm-hmm.
hear what someone else is saying. And in that moment of hearing it, going, okay, I have to think about what they said and I have
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how to put it on paper. But like you said, since you're building off of stage 2, you are asking, understanding, and you're representing appropriately.
Yeah, so that's this idea of what does it mean to represent student thinking appropriately is a place where we kind of differ from some other really good people out there. There's some really good people out there who would how do I say this? Who I've seen videos of them and I heard them talk and I've read in their books where they say, so a student says that I did an area model, and then the student will walk through like an over strategy. And the teacher will then feel kind of obligated to use the area model or an open array to represent that over strategy, even if the two strategies shared before were students say in a ratio table or students say in a using equations or something. And the teacher kind of feels obligated to use the model that the student is saying they used, when we are going to suggest that actually this is part of the mathematics for teaching with students, is that the teacher in that moment gets to go, let me see if I can figure out the relationships you're using. And now let me choose a model that will represent that will make it visible in such a way that now it's comparable to other students' thinking, that we can now have a conversation about how these two strategies are related, how they're the same, how they're different, how students were using relationships. We've seen, and we're not recommending this, y'all, but we've seen teachers where they'll do some sort of, how did you do it? And the student says, well, I did it this way. And they put the relationships on the board the way the student said to. And then the second student says the exact same relationships, but using a different model. And so then the teacher puts that on the board as if it's a different strategy. And sort of plays, oh, okay, so we've got Kim's strategy over here and Pam's strategy over here, when in reality it was the same strategy. So that's part of the work that needed to have happened in stage 2. Is what's the difference between a model and a strategy, and being clear on the relationships enough to be able to hear students and go, what in this case would be a great model to use to make this thinking visible in such a way that we can progress towards our goal. So, Kim, I can actually foresee a case where a teacher might say, "Oh, this kid said that they did this thing in a ratio table, and this kid said that they did the exact same kind of relationships, but on an open array." As a teacher, I might in that moment put them both up and then go, "What do you guys think? Same strategy, different strategy?" Like that could be a conversation, but we need to that's coming from a place where the teacher actually understands the difference, understands that since they were using the same relationships, it was the same strategy. And so now I'm going to try to move the math forward in some way. One way could be putting them both up, discussing if they're the same. But another way could be, you use the same relationships, but just on a different model. Okay. Did anybody actually use a different strategy? Like that's where the teacher is kind of clear on the difference between models and strategies and how you use them as you're working with students. I kind of went on for a long time there. Kim, you still there?
Yeah, I am.
Sorry.
It's okay. So what you just described are some challenges that we see people have when they're trying to facilitate problem talks.
Mm-hmm.
And just in the excitement of, oh my gosh, these kids know things and they're saying things.
Woo!
And in this stage, we would assume and hope and encourage people to facilitate problem talks, but to do them well in
Mm-hmm.
such a way that the teacher still is highly engaged in making choices so that the math is appropriately modeled
Mm-hmm.
and facilitating conversation that's actually useful and not just filling a board with a bunch of stuff that is maybe connected, but they don't see it. And, just anything goes. And so there's still purposeful choice that teachers are doing when they're facilitating problem talks. And all of that comes from the understanding that the work they've done in stage 1 and stage 2. Another thing that we want.
Hey,
Yeah.
Kim, before you go on there, I just actually had a conversation with Kathy Fosno the other
Uh-huh.
day, and one of the things that she said is that often we'll find kind of what you just were describing is that people will do problem talks for the purpose of creating talk, and she said that's not enough.
Yeah.
We don't want to just do things for talk. Of course, we want talk, but toward the end of building the mathematics, and in a huge way that can be. So we want to do problem talks purposefully. But it's also super important to realize the difference between a problem talk and a problem string, where it's a series of problems where, now I'm going to quote Brendan Scribner, our friend, who said, we're going to high dose pattern kids so that kids really get hit with this high dosage of patterning in a problem string. And that's where they really construct strategies. So recognizing the difference between a problem talk and a problem string happens in this stage. And how do I use a problem talk to its advantage? And how do I use a problem string to really, maybe I'll say that differently. How do I use a problem string to really construct relationships in the learners' heads and then so they own strategies, and then use a problem talk to compare already constructed strategies. So it's super important in this stage to kind of understand the difference between those two routines and how to use them both to their advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so if somebody is in this stage, what are some things that they can do? We mentioned talks and strings. What are some other action items they can have?
Yeah. So literally any opportunity that you can take a deep breath and just ask people on the street, in the grocery store line, on the subway, like pick up a church, wherever you are, where you can just say, hey, how do you think about 99 plus anything? And 99 times anything. And you might give them a number, like 99 plus 27 or 99 times 67. Like, how do you think about that? And then just wait, just listen. Don't in that moment feel like you have to teach them anything. Like just you can actually just really get good at asking questions and listening. And then you might maybe try to make their thinking visible, like choose a model. Don't feel the pressure to choose the best model, the most appropriate model. You might not even do it with them. You're at church. You have to pull out your iPad and like your church bulletin and be sketching down a model. You could be, let's see how that person used those relationships. How would I represent that thinking? Throw those experiences into the Math is Forgettable Teacher Facebook group. Say, hey, I just did this, and the person said this. How would you represent that? Is that one of the major models? Or strategies? I don't even recognize this thinking. Like this would be a place to really join in with other like-minded teachers who are in this stage, who are really trying to figure out how do we elicit thinking? And then once we've heard it, how do we make sense of it? And how do we represent it? What would be a good model in this situation? Is there a different, could I hear that same strategy and choose a different model sometimes? So the Math is Forgettable Teacher Facebook group would be a fantastic place. If you're not in there yet, join that group and then dive in and share with us the kinds of experiences that you're having, and get feedback from other people about the way, the things that people are saying as you're asking them questions and how you would represent them. You can also download our How Do You Reason paper. We've got a guide for you where we give you certain questions to ask that can really help you identify how students are reasoning. Are they reasoning additively? Are they reasoning multiplicatively or proportionally or functionally? So our How Do You Reason free download would be a fantastic, gives you fantastic questions for you to ask. You're like, Pam, what are the kinds of questions that I can ask? Well, bam, here's a great resource that you can download. We'll put that link in the show notes. We also have problem strings on the website. We have problem string books, y'all. If you want resources for problem strings, we have got them. Check out mathisforrealable.com. Go to the store and click on books. We have got problem string books coming out for grade levels, grade bands. You can check out those problem strings, use those problem strings, listen to student thinking, represent that thinking. That you are right in this stage if you're doing all of those things.
All right. So stage 1, building numeracy. Stage 2, learning about the major models and strategies. If you haven't heard those, go back and listen to the last couple of weeks. And stage 3, all about listening to and representing student thinking.
Bam! Y'all, thanks for tuning in and teaching more and more real math. To find out more about the Math is Figureoutable movement, visit mathisfigureoutable.com and keep spreading the word that math is figureoutable.